This is the Daily Night for Wednesday, June 29, 2016. The Daily Night supports Making Biscuits Cat Rescue, a 501c3 charity. If you like this podcast, please consider making a donation or adopting a rescue cat at makingbiscuits.org. I'm your host, Gerardo San Diego, and what a difference half an hour makes. I just finished Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. It is a little bit past midnight. I have had a long day, but I figured, let's watch it. I originally wasn't planning on podcasting this late. I was just going to watch it, see what everybody else was talking about, how they said it's so much better. But I agree with them. I'm trying to put it into words where sometimes in order to get there faster, you have to slow down. Or maybe in order to get there the right way, you have to slow down. You have to take your time. And this version, it's half an hour more than the theatrical version. It feels like a different movie. You know what it is? Okay. There's a certain rhythm to everything. Everything has a pace. The perfect example, the Godfather film has a certain pace. The Godfather films don't have the same pace as Deadpool. Okay? Deadpool does not have the same pace as Star Wars. Star Wars does not have the same pace as Let's Go Opera. A Mozart opera, Don Giovanni. I think that's by Mozart. And even within opera, Don Giovanni has a different pace than something by like Rigoletto or Tristan und Isolde by Wagner. That's what was missing, I think, to Batman v Superman. It had a pace that it wanted to match. It's part of its spirit. It's part of the film's completeness is its pace. And that pace was taken away or very much crippled when it was edited down to get the theatrical release. I don't even understand why they would pare down a movie from 3 hours to 2.5, except for box office. And look what it kind of backfired on them, didn't it? Avatar is 3 hours. Titanic is 3 hours. Lord of the Rings movies are 3 hours and way more than 3 hours. And people are totally fine with them. What would be nice is if people just cleared the theatrical original release out of their memories and just stuck with this Ultimate Edition, because it actually feels like the theatrical release. You know what the version of the movie that came out in March feels like? It feels like it was edited down for television. We got to cut this out. We got to cut this out. And we only have like 3.5 half hour time slot on a Sunday night. So we got to cut out all these parts so we can stick commercials in there. And it felt like it. If you've ever watched, I remember when I was a kid, there was the 10 Commandments would go on Sunday night. And people know, man, the 10 Commandments took, with commercials, it takes like 4 to 5 hours. I think it's like 4.5 hours. It's ridiculous. And I remember when I was a kid, they would pare it down to like 2 hours. Like, you're going to miss a lot of Moses' life. if you have with 2 hours with commercials, you basically have like an hour and a half movie. So they skipped a whole bunch of stuff. And then, as time went on, as we got into the 21st century, people realizes, let's just put the full length movie on. That let's start at 6 o'clock and end it like at 10:30 at night, or even at 11 or midnight, whatever it takes. And I'm actually happy that this Ultimate Edition is as it is because I am a big Batman fan. Probably my two favorite superheroes are Batman and Wolverine. Sort of. Can you imagine a Batman Wolverine fight, hand to hand, just just brute strength with on brute fury? That would be awesome. But they kind of even look alike. If you start drawing them, they kind of the beginning of the drawing sort of looks like each other. But okay, I'm digressing. Um, I'm happy right now. It's freaking past midnight, and I felt like what I felt like. Okay, some of you or many of you may not be the Force Awakens fans, but after I saw the Force Awakens on the Thursday night, the first day that it came out, I felt the same relief that I do now after watching Batman v Superman's Ultimate Edition. Uh, it's like, whew, they did it right. They didn't do it perfect. There were still some issues, but to tackle a project like this with the subjects that they had to do, with as much pressure, not just from fans, but also non fans, the casual viewers, and the movie studio, and all the other forces, and the legacy of both Batman, Superman, or Star Wars. They got to live up to all this stuff, and I kind of feel bad for Zack Snyder now. I don't know if how much he was forced to edit it down to 2.5 hours, how much he was forced to take out some stuff, because it looks like this is an R-rated version. I barely noticed the R rating. I don't know, but I keep thinking there was there was intensity. There wasn't violence, but there's intensity. The fights and the brutality lasted longer. There was a lingering, longer lingering on the violence, and I think maybe that's what gave it an R rating. One scene that I kind of wish they should have either pulled back or just did more was the bathtub scene, because it was highly edited in the theatrical release, and they showed it, and I'm going, why did they even bother showing that? There was almost a non-scene, but they made the scene longer in the Ultimate Edition, and it worked better. But I wish that they would have even pushed it even more. If you wanted to see Superman really just trying to be Clark Kent, trying to be a human being, then if they're going to show her in the bathtub, it's almost like, I swear to God, they did a whole like Playboy airbrushing type thing on her body. It's like, okay, we can't show nipple. Oh, God forbid, we have an R rating, but we can't show nipple. Okay, but she's sloshing around and she's getting up, and then you can tell the camera is editing it just so it's like right below her neck, and it was almost like, okay, either don't even try for that angle and then try to hide it, or just show it. And I think some of the best movies that show people in real life situations is showing them in their most vulnerable, even when they are not pretty looking, the reality of it. Because Lois and Clark, at home, I don't know, I guess Superman is going to look perfect all the time, right? Because he's Superman. But Lois Lane is not going to look perfect all the time. So I'm wishing it's like, okay, just show her without makeup, show her all, right? On relatively to how Amy Adams would look, but she still looked pretty good, right? So, like when she was sifting through the her clothes, she was unpacking from the desert thing, right? She came back and she was unpacking her suitcase, but also having a glass of wine, and also dressed like she's not at home. I kind of wish there was more of that. There was more of a Spielberg, this is what people really look like at home. And I think that would have driven home even more of how Clark Kent, Superman, wanted to be a regular person. But that's a little quibble. I love how they extended the scene longer. We got more of a dialogue. We got more of a lead up to the Superman angst. One thing I'm just gonna. I have no notes right now. I'm just gonna go, freestyle, a stream of consciousness. I'm probably gonna be jumping around, whatever comes to mind. So, but the way Clark Kent just wanted to be Clark Kent. I love how they. He had a lot more moments where he was Clark Kent. It almost felt like it. There was more explanation to his motives, and one of the things one of my big gripes with the short version was you saw Superman wincing a lot. He made that face, and I keep thinking I remember he made that face that he made after the Capitol building blew up, and he was in flames, and he was making that face. I keep thinking he made that face like 5 times, 6 times in the short version, in the theater version, and I swear I only saw him do it once in this Ultimate Edition. I don't know if it was actually that way, that he had that face more, but I just didn't notice it because it was in the right, more proper context in this longer version. So maybe that's it. Maybe the one of the strengths of an editor is making a shot look as good as it can get, and you tell within the big story, you tell little mini stories through the use of editing. The director and the cameraman, cinematographer, they're going to do their job. They're going to give you some awesome raw footage, but it's up to the editor or editors to pick the right millisecond before the scene is supposed to start and when the scene is supposed to end, and they're supposed to guide the viewer through that scene. And I think this was a much better guidance in terms of all the way it was edited. I don't think it was as much, or I don't think it was only just adding more seconds to every scene. I think it was also adding the right moments, either before or after the scene that we've already seen in the theatrical release. And I actually, Superman Clark Kent felt more heroic to me in this version. Batman Bruce Wayne felt more furious to me in this version. Like, you can feel it building up within him to where when he explodes, it was justified. There was a call for it. It was called for. Are those the right words? Lois Lane didn't look like she was just inserted into certain scenes. Like, what was she doing over there? Her scenes with Jenna Malone. I forgot her character in the movie, but how they explained what was it, the bullet that they found lodged in Lois Lane's notebook was created by LexCorp. Just those little explanations, and that her Lois Lane, Amy Adams' relationship with Jenna Malone in this movie, it felt like if you guys, whoever saw Silence of the Lambs, the first, the original Silence of the Lambs, where Jodie Foster's character had would call back and forth with her research partner out across the country, and they would call each other back and forth and compare notes. And Jodie Foster was the one on the field chasing around, Buffalo Bill and Hannibal Lecter, and her friend was the one back in the research lab doing all the research and giving her the information. That's what the Jenna Malone character did for me. It's like, now Lois Lane isn't just going out on hunches anymore. She's like, there's a reason why I'm doing this. There's journalistic, factual, backed up reasons why I'm flying around in a helicopter chasing stuff. They never showed that in their theatrical release. They never showed Jenna Malone in the theatrical release. Um, uh, the what was the Gotham? I think I gotta watch it. By the way, if I don't think you guys are gonna wait like 3 weeks to get the Blu-ray, but I downloaded. I bought the digital download version, so that came with both the theatrical and the Ultimate Edition. So I got to rewatch the theatrical release because I don't remember Bruce Wayne when they were, the big battle with Doomsday. I don't remember Bruce Wayne um, uh, telling anyone that he was going to lure Doomsday back into Gotham City because that's where the spear was. So that made more sense to me. The whole movie had a whole bunch of those little itty bitty things that, oh, if you just explained it with one or two sentences, the whole scene would make more sense, and then what came after would make more sense, what came before would make more sense, and then 3 scenes, 4 scenes, 5 scenes down the line, that would make more sense because you tie things together. Another thing that I really liked about this version is I gotta go watch it again because people were talking enough times to where I was actually missing some information, and that's why you want to return watching the same movie over and over again because a lot of times it's dialogue. It's not action sequences because we're pretty much spoiled on action sequences. We can see we can only see so many bullets flying, or lasers getting shot, or things exploding. I think we go back to the theater, especially with like Marvel movies. Ant-Man is a perfect example. Deadpool, of snappy dialogue or information-rich dialogue that explains a lot. I'm going to jump to the Mother Box scene with Steppenwolf. I love that. What a perfect transition from the end of the big battle and to where Lex Luthor winds up in prison. It makes sense now. Before it's like, what? Why is he going ding, ding, ding? What? So, excuse me. So, what else? Okay. I wanted to start off with this this really introspective analogy, but here's another analogy for you. Back when there was only AM and FM radio, this is before most of you guys were even born. The radio stations had so many hits, and then they had to play commercials in between the songs that they played. And so those of you who remember 45 RPM records, the smaller ones, the 78 the 33 and the third RPM records were the bigger vinyl albums, and the smaller ones were 45s. Okay, so a lot of times the song that was in the vinyl album, the big one, when they distributed that same song as a 45 RPM single, they cut down the runtime of the song. What was it? I remember Styx, Come Sail Away. Styx, Styx. Those of you who are old enough to remember or listen to it. Come Sail Away had a very short version for the radio and on the 45 RPM record compared to the album, the vinyl version. And if you listen to it at home, it made more sense because some of the stanzas were missing from the record, the radio play. They did that because they usually had 3, maybe 4 minutes tops to play a song before they cut to a commercial. They got to make their money, right? The radio station have to make their money. And I think they did the same thing with, the Batman v Superman. In the theatrical release, if you cut out half an hour from the movie, turn it from a 3-hour movie to a 2.5-hour movie, you might be able to sneak in another showing during the same day. And supposedly that will, net you more box office. But if you have an incomplete movie that's 2.5 hours, less people are going to see it than a complete movie at 3 hours. A perfect example again, Titanic and Avatar and Lord of the Rings, all 3 movies, and The Hobbit. The probably one of the best examples is Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. There is a butchered version that they used to play on the radio that it totally did not make sense. You know why? Actually, here's I'm going to compare it to Bohemian Rhapsody. First, let me turn on my AC. My AC. Oh, I'm pushing the wrong button. Okay. All right. So if you heard that beep, that was the AC on. It's still warm, folks. Bohemian Rhapsody is basically an opera. It's a rock opera. It's 6.5 minutes long or something like that, right? And they would cut it down to about 4 minutes on the radio, 4.5 if you're lucky. You know how much of the lead up to the rock and roll part you would miss in Bohemian Rhapsody if when you take out that much of a song? Same thing with Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin's classic, right? There's that long guitar part and there's a long lingering thing at the very beginning, and then you get to the rock and roll. So you compare Bohemian Rhapsody and Stairway to Heaven. I can't believe I'm comparing these two songs to Batman v Superman, but I think it's worthy of it. This 3-hour Batman v Superman, there is this opera going on. The first 2/3 of this movie is the build-up, and I love it. There's a perfect example. It just happened this last weekend is the Game of Thrones season 6 finale. You had that 20 minutes at the very beginning. It was mostly all music with Cersei planning her moves, right? The Batman v Superman, the first 2/3 of the movie is not wham bam, the pow pow Spider-Man stuff. It's the lead up to the big confrontation between Batman and Superman and Doomsday. You have to take your time doing that stuff. Because if you don't, the movie will hiccup. And it did. The 2.5-hour version just kept hiccuping during the whole freaking the first 2/3 of it. It's like they would jump from one thing and then they would lead you to another thing and another thing and another. And it's like you're getting whiplash because your neck is going, what? Going here and there. And it's what am I following? What am I supposed to follow? Did I just miss a storyline? I can't rewind this because I'm in the theater. And this time, they took their time. They presented it with you. They presented it to you. They led up to it. They gave you the information, and then they gave you a few seconds to digest that information before going to the next scene. Even if there was nothing going on in those few seconds, you needed that. A perfect example is Netflix's Daredevil. They had to spread it into 13 episodes, but you had to have time to breathe within those episodes. There were some episodes there was hardly any fighting, but you need that episode in order to get to the next episode and appreciate the fighting more or understand the motivation for the fighting more. Game of Thrones, the same thing. Walking Dead, the same thing. So if this Ultimate Edition was really Zack Snyder's original vision, then I'm impressed. There were still some parts in there. I think the whole Doomsday fight. I keep thinking they ran out of money, or they ran out of budget, or they ran out of time to flesh out the story, or something. It kind of felt shoehorned in, but at least just a little bit where Batman says, "I'm gonna bring him back to Gotham because that's where the spear is." And this version, I knew where all the places were. Like, oh, they're in Gotham now. Oh, they're in Metropolis now. Oh, okay, they're in the middle of the ocean, or it makes sense where Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, is now. Okay, because the movie allowed me to kind of get my bearings in between subplots or scenes, so that this is now that they're going to this. Even the courthouse scene, it didn't feel forced. It's funny. I was thinking, The Dark Knight Rises, Christopher Nolan's third movie in the Batman series. What The Dark Knight Rises did too much of, the theatrical release of Batman v Superman did not do enough of. Okay, so in my opinion, just my opinion, The Dark Knight Rises was, I'd say, 15 to 20 minutes too long for what it did. They could have cut it shorter and kept the pace moving more, as opposed to really draw out Bruce Wayne's struggles in the pit, in the prison. I think they could have shortened that more or something, and that, I think, hurt that movie. The Dark Knight Rises might have been more widely accepted if it was a little bit more brevity to it. Batman v Superman is the opposite. There was so much of this movie. By the way, folks, there's a lot of this movie we got to deal with. We got to deal with Batman and Superman. We got to deal with Diana Prince. We got to deal with Lex Luthor, what his motivations were. I think there was at least a minute more explanation of how Alexander Luthor, Jesse Eisenberg's character, became that way, or the way he was explaining things, and that helped. He didn't bug me as much in this version, and I think it's because I was allowed to. Well, in the theater version, it's like, okay, you got a Batman scene, so you're going to get the Batman emotions, or you're going to feel like Batman, you're going to be immersed in the whole Batman thing. Boom, you're now in the Superman, Clark Kent emotion room. And now you got to feel like Superman, empathize, and then boom, you got to go into Lex Luthor mode. And there was not that transition. There was not that pause. During symphonies, there are 4 movements, and between each of the movements, the orchestra quiets down and rests and allows the crowd to sit in silence for about 15 seconds to 45 seconds, even a minute, before they go on to the next movement. Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, did that. It lets you pause a little bit. What else can I say about this movie? Back to, you know what? Okay, when Superman, of course, this is spoiler, right? It's you got to be crazy not to listen to this and not have watched the movie already, or not have watched the original one. Actually, this is not as much a spoiler for the Ultimate Edition, because there's not really that much spoilery stuff. It doesn't change the plot at all. It just presents it to you in a more thorough manner. So hopefully, I'm not getting anybody mad by not warning you of a spoiler version. I don't think there was really any. Surprise! Jenna Malone. Okay. What else? I lost my train of thought. I don't want to have to pause this because I want to go to sleep soon. Probably, let me see how many. Look at that! I'm like 28 minutes into this thing. I was just rambling on and on. Let's see. Did I say how I ranked it already? Yeah, I ranked it about 8.5, 8.5. What I would have liked them to improve on, the Doomsday fight. That's kind of a given. The Jesse Eisenberg cutting his hand, and I think I understand now. He basically polluted the water, so it's a little bit of a commentary on messing around with genetics, like the what is it, the genetically modified or grown food, right? Organic versus genetically modified, and I think that's a little commentary on it, but the way they led up to it, okay, I'm okay with it now. It's still kind of weird, but the pacing of it felt more natural. It felt more organic, I guess, the way it evolved there. And okay, now I get with the whole, when I saw it first in the movie theater, it's like, what was the motivation of these guys? The mother and the kidnapping of Martha. And I don't know if they added more. See, that's the weird thing. I'm not sure if they added more seconds to the motivation scenes for why Batman and Superman are fighting. But I keep thinking because they gave us enough room to breathe earlier on in the movie, we had enough capacity to understand the motivation later on in the movie. It's like if you sports analogy, perfect example. Golden State Warriors, this last finals. I keep thinking they ran out of energy. They were just overmatched. But if you play okay, I'm kind of rambling now. Sorry. Basketball game has 48 minutes. You have a better chance of winning a basketball game if you play your star players. If you don't play them all 48 minutes, let them rest, give them time enough to just get a breath in, and then throw them back in the game. In watching a movie, I think the audience also, you need time to breathe mentally, if not physically. You need to be able to watch a piece of the movie and then have the slow transitional moments, and then okay, get your mental what do they call that when you're eating sushi, your pickled ginger or your sorbet when you're eating French food, in between bites, to give you that pause and then get you ready, get you going again. And it felt like they did it right. In addition to that pauses in between the action sequences or the storytelling parts, the rhythm of this 3-hour version is so much more consistent. Over the 3 hours, there is a certain pace that the movie keeps. Even with the whole Doomsday and Batman v Superman fight, there is still that certain pace and that the pacing going on. Even though when people are just talking, it's supposedly slow, and when people are fighting, it's supposedly fast. But it's the way they talk and it's the way they fight, and it feels much more even, probably. And that's one of the strengths, or well, it has a lot of strengths. The Godfather movies, or a good gangster movie, if it has a good pace, a good rhythm, a good what is it? A balance. It's easier to sit through 3 hours, and I think this movie did it. What's another Avatar? Yeah, Avatar. Avatar is a good paced movie, and that's the weird thing is if you watch Avatar on TV and you don't sit through the whole thing, it's not as good. Same with the Lord of the Rings movies. If you just kind of channel surfing and clicking, and then hoping for a really awesome scene that only takes 5 minutes because you got to get to an appointment, or you got to go feed the dog or go have lunch, you're not going to think Lord of the Rings is that good. It's just going to be a whole bunch of scenes taken out of context. And I think the theatrical version of BVS felt like that. It's like you're just channel surfing. Like, what now? So, what else? See, Superman. I really. Oh, the big one is the death of Superman. When Superman actually dies. Oh, okay. There's that scene right before he takes the spear and goes after Doomsday, and he knows it's probably going to kill him. There's that Superman music that we heard first in the Man of Steel, the previous movie. That da-na, da-na, and there's got a lot of piano going on, right? And once you hear it, oh, that's Superman's theme. In the theatrical version, I kept thinking I heard that damn song like 5 times, and it like when everything is magic, nothing is magic. When you do something too much, it loses its charm. So, and I keep thinking the theatrical version played that music way too many times, but in this 3-hour version, the Ultimate Edition, I swear I only heard it once, and it was during that when Superman and Lois had their their final moment before Superman went to fight Doomsday with a spear, and it was perfect. They had that moment of humanity between the both of them. There should be another word for it. Whatever it is, because he's not human officially, but you know what I mean. That moment of vulnerability, probably is a better word. Genuine. And then they played that music, and I go, "Oh man, that guy actually got to me this time." In the movie theater, I was like, just get it over with. I don't care." But this time, because there was enough of explanation, and you saw the evolution of Superman's, how he got to that point, what he had to go through, it made more sense, and it actually got to me. And then when he was flying toward Doomsday with a spear, I could almost forget the fact that it's like he should have just given the spear to Wonder Woman. But it felt like, see, this version, it felt like she was really busy doing something else, and it's like they don't have walkie-talkies, and she's busy just trying not to die fighting Doomsday. So I think she was kind of too busy to even know that the spear was there, right? And Batman, he's not gonna do the spear thing. He doesn't have a ship. He doesn't have his big armor. Superman gets close to Doomsday. Doomsday just has to burp, and Batman is dissolved. Another thing, the other Justice League people, Cyborg and Aquaman and the Flash and the Wonder Woman, when those files came on, I think there was enough of the movie to satisfy me that when those scenes came on, they just felt like little bonus scenes, and it was cool. So, and I swear to God, the Aquaman scene went by faster and much more convincing than when I saw it in the movie theater. I don't know. It could be it's like because I already saw it once. It's going by faster the second time, but it didn't feel as awkward as when I saw it in the movie theater. I bet you it's the exact same scene, but in context, it's much better. What else? And the mother box, the whole mother box explaining Cyborg, it made sense to me more. I think, you know what? This could be the whole hindsight is 2020 thing, because since I saw the theatrical version, I kept reading up. It's like, what was this? What was this? So I sort of had previous information and knowledge about this 3-hour version of the movie that I am armed with. I arm myself with, so I'm much more informed. I wonder maybe that's why a whole lot of other people, and there are a lot of you out there, you're a freaking army. Bless you for sticking with this movie, by the way. And I was one of the naysayers. I tried to find the best parts of the theatrical version. I compared it to an abstract piece of art. And it may not make sense, but there are moments of brilliance in it. And those of you who had faith in this movie, even after watching just the theatrical version, I have a feeling you guys are like celebrating right now. It's it's like us Star Wars fans after the prequels came out, and we're like, oh, we know Star Wars can do so much better. Or like we know it's we know it's in Star Wars, and then Force Awakens comes out, and we're like, yay, we finally got kind of like a redemption sort of thing. Same with Star Trek. I'm hoping Star Trek Beyond, when it comes out next month, it will have that kind of redemption where, you know what? Okay, yeah, Star Trek can bring it also. It belongs up there with all the others. What else? I like all the characters so much more in this 3-hour version. Perry White had more lines, and he was the Perry White that I was hoping to get. I'm forgetting the specific lines that he said, but I just felt like, okay, he said more. There's more going on. I think when he was talking to both Lois and Clark, there was more going on with him. there was more of an explanation, or just the showing more of the scene at the beginning of the movie, when Bruce Wayne sees all the damage that Superman and General Zod brought down on the city. Um, yeah. Or it could be a combination of both. It could be a combination of this is a better version. I think objectively, this is a better version. I think because they just explained more to us that needed to be explained. It's not like an optional explaining thing. I think these extra seconds and minutes had to be there for us to understand better, and they did. Partially also, I think because I've read so much since the theatrical version was released, I understand so much more of what the story is already. And then when this 3 hour version came out, it filled in more of the blanks for me. So maybe that helped with my appreciation of it. This 3 hour version. What else am I not covering? It feels like they edited the music down to it. If they did or they didn't, I gotta go watch the theatrical version again. It felt like the music was more right on this time. There was more. There was the right quantity of the Junkie XL stuff, and who was the other guy, the more serious soundtrack stuff. Of course, the Batman fight, the famous Batman takes on 24 people on the second story. That's right. There was more of that, and you saw how terrifying Batman is, and there was a little more of that creepy music going on, like Sounds of the Lamb stuff. When the guy, I think that's one of the R rating stuff, is when he got the guy on the shoulder with a knife. I think they lengthened that scene to where he drove that freaking knife into the shoulder that much harder, and there was more terror going on. What else? I keep thinking they showed a few more. Oh, you know what? I'm trying to remember. I think the theatrical version, you never saw, or very little saw, Grace, who was... Is it Grace? Yeah, Grace. Bruce Wayne's assistant. When he was talking to her. And I don't know. I got to see the original, the theatrical version. But just all these little things, they explain more. And also, when who was it? The assistant to the president guy, when he met with Lois Lane in incognito, he was wearing a baseball cap and trench coat, and they met to go over is it the bullet fragment? I don't remember that being in the original theatrical release, and that explained more. There were elements of this movie that reminded me, the theatrical version, almost none of it reminded me of cool scenes from other movies that I liked. This 3 hour version, I think because each scene had enough of an extension to where it was a complete scene, it felt more... I was reminded of certain movies that I really liked. I always go back to All the President's Men. No, The Insider, with Al Pacino and Russell Crowe. That scene in where Lois Lane talks to the assistant to the president, and he's wearing baseball cap in the park, reminded me of a scene in The Insider and the way they went about discussing facts. I don't know if that was in the theatrical version. There were parts of it remind me of a superhero opera, and I said that earlier on. It felt operatic this time. The 2.5 hour version, felt like I don't know what it felt like, but this 3 hour version felt like an opera. It felt like the Godfather moments, where you had the music playing, and then things were building up and things were building up and things were building up, and then the final third of the movie, the third act, where Batman fights Superman and the both of them and Wonder Woman fight Doomsday, it felt more satisfying because you got enough of the opera part in the first two-thirds of the movie. So I can't believe I've talked this long about this movie. 45 minutes, wow, on one freaking 3-hour movie. But hopefully I said something worthwhile to you guys. If you're one of the many, many, many that supported, I keep thinking it's like you guys are like the Boston Red Sox fans. I guess you guys are really celebrating right now. It's like, yes, we the people finally see what we saw, the potential in this movie. The Boston Red Sox hadn't won a World Series in like decades, and the Yankees kept beating them. And finally, back in the 2000s, they finally won like back-to-back World Series or something like that. Still waiting for the Chicago Cubs to do it. So, go Cubs! But I'm actually happy for you guys. If you're listening, the 15 of you who actually listen to this podcast, those of you who have seen the potential, even in the theatrical release of Batman v Superman, and was, psychologically and mentally hurt by the people who were bashing that movie, I can understand what you're going through. Sorry from myself also, but I think things happen for a reason, and I wonder if this 3-hour version would have happened if the 2.5-hour version wasn't so lambasted by the critics. So maybe all's well that ends well, sort of thing, right? But I'm just rambling. I need to get to sleep. I still got to process this and post this up on iTunes and stuff. So what else? There's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. I'm not even going to talk about it. So if you like this podcast, appreciate that I stayed up to review Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. I hope that's what it's called, right? It's called the Ultimate Edition. If you have a buck or two, to just please donate it to Making Biscuits Cat Rescue. Go to makingbiscuits.org, and there's a quick button on there so you can donate through PayPal or credit card, or you can on this thedailyknight.net, thedailyknight with a K.net. On this page, there's it describes what Amazon Smile is all about. Basically, you let's see, do I have it on here? I'll post it. But smile.amazon.com, and you can. Oh yeah, I have it. I have a link. Smile.amazon.com, and then choose Making Biscuits Cat Rescue as part of your charity of choice. It won't cost you a cent, promise. Amazon donates its profits to charities using Amazon Smile. So there's instructions for it on my website, thedailyknight.net, thedailyknight with a K.net. And again, this is Gerardo San Diego. And I am very happy, if not for myself, then I'm happy for you Batman v Superman fans, the loyal. I'm really glad that you can have this to those of you, a lot of you already absolutely love the theatrical version. And I think those of us who didn't like the theatrical version as much, maybe we didn't see the potential like you did. I'm hoping, I'm always hoping for the best, regardless of what really is. I'm hoping for the best, and I'm really, really, really glad that this 3-hour version came out. And I really want to hear what Zack Snyder is going to say regarding what he had to do to get to this 3-hour version? Did he actually go back to the drawing board and go through all his raw material and piece together this 3-hour version? Because this feels I can't believe I'm saying this. It feels complete. I'm trying to see, did they leave out anything? No, they didn't. The big thing was that Steppenwolf. The big thing was the evidence stuff, and those are in it now, and everything, for the most part, is clear to me. So, good. I will watch this 3-hour version a whole lot more now, because there's a whole lot of detail that I think I missed this first time that I saw it. So, yay. Until next time, this is Gerardo San Diego. May the force be with you. Thank you very much.